The RB19 has been the monster of 2023. We already know this, but what has given them this huge advantage in the streets on certain tracks, but on other tracks, not so much? Even going out to mock other teams saying, how have you not figured out our DRS secret? Like in general, how the car works. Mocking Mercedes, mocking McLaren, mocking Aston Martin, mocking Ferrari. Ferrari actually getting the closest. What has given them this kind of advantage? We even had Lewis Hamilton going into Grand Prix saying, hey, what happened to the DRS advantage? Did you guys get caught out by the FIA? You know, Lewis playing some games with the actual Red Bull squad. They thought they were catching him. And what ends up happening? We go into Belgium, now going into Zandvoort, already seeing that in Belgium, that car is on a different planet. I mean, not from Earth, where it is coming from. Well, I have a theory as to why this Red Bull car has actually been performing so well on certain tracks and not really on others, even though it's still been the best car. So let's talk about really the middle of the season. So as the F1 calendar passed, I mean, obviously the Imola Grand Prix that we didn't end up getting, we go into Monaco, Spain, Canada, Austria, Silverstone, Hungary, and then lastly, Belgium. And all these tracks were pretty slow tracks. So the actual Red Bull team brought another rear wing in Monaco. If you can take a guess, how many rear wings do you think Red Bull have brought this whole entire year? I guarantee you probably won't guess it. Most teams have brought around 5 to 6. Where do you think Red Bull's is at? They have brought a fat 2. Two, and they brought one in Saudi, one in Monaco. And since then, they've made a couple improvises on the rear wings depending on each track. Saudi, obviously going for the lower downforce wing, which isn't even really that low downforce. And in Monaco, having a higher downforce wing, which is very high downforce, but has been used on multiple other tracks. Spain being that track, they even used it in Hungary, which, I mean, those tracks do require a lot of downforce, but not to the Monaco level. Just showing you the balance of the car. Also, another thing to note is, in Saudi, they brought a beam wing. The one that we notoriously, famously called the triple DRS. So, bringing in the triple DRS already gives them that kind of advantage that we've been talking about. It's been explained. The way that the actual diffuser, I mean, let me go into it one more time quickly just to refresh our minds. The actual DRS, the way this triple DRS works, it's within the beam wing and the diffuser working in unison and bringing up that airflow in the same type of fashion. Bring it all in unison, giving us that slipstream that is just insane for the car and making it just a straight line bullet. And actually, working in the favor of Max Verstappen. That's why we always get these claims of Max and Perez having totally different cars. Well, no. Max likes to break the car now earlier going into the corner because he can actually steer the car a lot more with oversteer and actually bring it into the corners a lot easier. While having a lot of that straight line speed requires that, Sergio likes to brake later because of the understeer, and because of that, he kind of fails to go into the corners like Max Verstappen. I mean, I think everybody fails to go into the corners like Max, but regardless of that fact, this car actually helps out Max in a lot of avenues, through its DRS, but also in its braking and how efficient the car is. But remembering that, they've only brought one rear wing and one beam wing. Remember this as a focus because throughout the whole entire season, if you only bring a couple things, how can you be so adaptable to every track? Well, in every track, they're always ahead by a good margin. And when they open that DRS, specifically talking in like Saudi, Australia, and Baku, what team was even comparable to them? No team. I mean, even in Belgium, it's practically like a 30 kph difference when the DRS is open on the Red Bull and not on the Mercedes. Why is this? Why is this jump so big? I mean, if you look at it on George, he gained like, what, 16, 17? Going from having a pretty higher rear downforce wing. The actual Ferrari car was the only car comparable to it, almost gaining 20. Well, they used the same rear wing they had in Saudi Arabia for Belgium, so it was a little bit more low downforce. But it's still a pretty chunky wing. So their car is super well balanced. And this is just a theory because, I mean, considering Mercedes and Ferrari can't figure it out, I'm not going to be the guy to tell you to figure it out. But I'd love to hear everybody else's opinion and kind of where this thought process is going for this car. Why is it so dominant to really the other teams? Why can't they figure it out? Well, first of all, we know that it's unison. The way that this floor is incorporated with the car just makes it work so well. But the actual DRS effect, the one that we keep just notoriously talking about and really giving this emphasis on why the car is so damn strong, because it really is in the straight line speed, because it's always having a bigger rear wing. It has so little drag in the car that it can afford to put a bigger rear wing and make a lot of its airflow go through the floor. If you actually look at the front wing on the Red Bull, it is different to every car on the grid. Most cars have their outwash going in a different way to what Red Bull does, but their actual front wing towards its nose is a little bit bigger and dips in towards the end. Every other team has it the opposite way around, and usually making a little bit of a curve in the middle to have a little bit different type of outwash. So the car is different in plenty of different ways. The way that it feeds its air to the floor is different to any other team. It makes a huge emphasis on the floor, and kind of the way that those steps work, shown in this image, and kind of explaining it, the way that this works and the way that the airflow is being distributed just makes this car so much faster in the straight line, but also giving it enough downforce, but giving it that rear wing to where it's kind of a medium downforce rear wing in any track that we go into, gives it that stability in its rear, making it such a strong car. It has no weaknesses because it's able to extract so much out of opening that gap at an efficient level, but also spreading that real beautifulness of airflow through its underfloor and not having to focus as much going into the rear wing. A lot of teams are making that mistake, in my opinion, and going really into the avenue of they have to continue going into the rear wing and fixing that up. I think it all has to do with the way that the floor, and then being able to just use that rear wing as more of a, okay, on the DRS, we're about to kill these guys. But without DRS, they're still fast. They have so little drag. The car is just such a monster in unison. But I found it funny that they've only been using one rear wing and one beam wing. And using that one beam wing, when they use the beam wing they brought to Saudi Arabia, the one that has the bigger flap on the bottom that gives it that triple DRS, that is the tracks that they just demolish people. That's tracks like Belgium, that's tracks like Baku, Australia, and Saudi Arabia, where they have just been murderous in the DRS. And even in Miami, I mean, it just isn't even comparable. When they have that beam wing set up with this actual rear wing as well, that's not even that loaded. It's pretty loaded, but still amazing. They just have the perfect car. They've been weak on tracks like Canada, where a compromise needs to be made. What type of beam wing do they want to go for? And is this the right decision? That is the only reason why on tracks really like Canada and in Silverstone, they were kind of compromised. Austria, they made the right compromise, killed everybody. Belgium, same thing. Hungary, they went with more downforce. The car is just beautifully working. And this is my thoughts on why the car is such a monster. And teams really need to learn really off of that, the way that the car works in unison, because no other team has that. And I actually think it's going to be a real hard struggle for teams to get it. Considering they're mocking people, it's pretty funny from Red Bull, but you got to give them the props that they deserve. They killed it in everything. The pit stops, the cars, the personnel, the drivers, they just have done it all. You got to give it to Red Bull. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Leave anything you like. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is kind of something that I was thinking about and wanted to make it into a video. So please leave a comment down below. It would mean the world, and peace.